I am recording. I'm now going to share it on Facebook as well. See, yes, on my timeline. Let's see if this is going to work. Because I do want a recording and I also want to stream. Let's see if that works. Put in the title. Okay. I hope this is working. I hope this is working. So it's going to be 1 or 2 minutes with me saying nothing interesting. Yes, I'm live. Awesome. This is so cool. So welcome everyone. I just had a sip of tea. I want to talk about a really cool project that I started working on. I did the first couple of sessions on this, and I want to do this as a case study. So today I want to talk about feed many with one design, one permaculture design that is important, but it's actually not permaculture. There's a tricky one in this, and I'm going to explain you why. So I want to talk about agro and regen agriculture, because that's important, because there's a difference between permaculture, agroforestry, and regenerative agriculture. So this is a project that I will be working on. Probably we've had the first couple of sessions. Probably I will be either keeping my tabs on the project. I will do the project management for it and the design, and see how it goes, because this is the premise, or this is the scope of the project. So by 2040, hope you can see this, I will turn 10 million hectares in fertile land, which is part of my goal. Like my yearly goal, my yearly mission is to transform 30 million acreages, so not hectares, 30 million acreages a year into fertile soil using regenerative agriculture practices and also permaculture design. That is my goal, and I'm on the way of doing the first part of it. So that's really, really good. I'm super pleased. It's only March and I am already ticking off my goals, which is exciting to me. And it is super exciting for the world as well. I know that this is possible. And when my clients said what the premise will be, so 10 million hectares by 2040, I said, oh, it's only 10 million because I wanted to be somewhere. I wanted to be done with 30 million this year. But this is already amazing. Like, this is a project that I'm working on. And we counted that this project alone, I hope I pronounced this right. I am sucky in pronouncing these kind of things. 4,000 million people will be fed by this project. 4,000 million people by 2040 will be fed by one simple permaculture design. And I want to talk about first a little bit of an introduction of what the project is. So I started being involved with this organization, I think last year. Last year, I invited her to come into one of my trainings. It was a food forest training. And I invited her to come and take a look at my work and what I'm doing. And she has the idea of starting a school, a new kind of school in the Netherlands. And it is all based on the Green School in Bali. It is a project, you have to look it up. It's really phenomenal. where kids do all their learning outside. It's all based on permaculture principles, which is really cool to me. Like that you build a school with the principles of permaculture is of course fantastic, and it's for kids. And I wish there was also an adult version of this because it's just so amazing. And she's basically founding a school. It is a private school for now. She's founding a school in the Netherlands. She's now building on the first model of that school, and she's already been working on this project for 2 years. And I met her during a sales call. She booked a sales call with me, and I said what I can do for her, not realizing how big this project turned out to be. She didn't even know either, I think. She had an inkling that it will be big, but not this big, which is amazing to me. So we kept tabs. I teach a class for this school. The school is not built yet. It will be next year. I teach a class now and then for the school for a couple of kids, and I teach them as a volunteer how to do seed saving and sowing vegetables from scraps, kitchen scraps. And I'm doing a class this Saturday on natural navigation for kids. It's amazing. It's all based on permaculture observation skills and natural navigation, which is really cool to teach kids and also adults to teach these things. And so I kept my tabs on the project, and then she started working with, she went from dream stage to like actual fundraising and making this project happen, which is really exciting. And she asked me to consult on the numbers for this project. And I did. And she came with her business consultant, really cool guy, like total, like the opposite of the spectrum of me and this woman, which made it fantastic for us to work together, like really, really amazing. I had 2 VIP days with them running the numbers on this particular idea that I had for their project. So their school will be hopefully built within like a couple of hectares of land, maybe 1, maybe 2. We build on all kinds of ideas during 2 VIP days. And this is the beginning of the project. It's still like the budgeting phase and fundraising and coming up with designs that work for this project, for me as a permaculture consultant, of course. And these 2 days we looked at, okay, how much food can we actually grow, the maximum of food that we can grow on 1 acre, because I don't know if you noticed, but 1 acre for me is my personal wet dream of a farm. I don't know if that sounds really weird to you, but it's my personal wet dream. That's what I want to have. I want to have 1 acre farm with animals and plants and a small house and a training location. That is what I've been striving for the last 10 years, to buy my own 1 acre hectare. I have to say hectare, sorry, 1 hectare, and build my own farm on it, which is really exciting. And I'm now in the final stages of onboarding a consultant for me, and she will help me with getting this project done, my 1 acre farm. So 1 acre for me is sort of the most challenging part of landscape. It is 1 acre. It's very minimal for farming, but that's what makes it so exciting, because if you do smart permaculture design, and I will talk about the differences later on. If you do smart permaculture design on 1 acre or 1 hectare, you get so much abundance on that field instead of just doing monoculture. So there is a difference already. Monoculture. I hope you can read this. If someone is watching right now, I am on Zoom, so I cannot see who's commenting in Facebook, which is fine. This is just a free class for you on my case study. So if you would do this by monoculture, you wouldn't get much out of that 1 acre. And I remember talking about this idea 10 years ago on a business meeting. And they said, it's not possible, you cannot change farming. And here we are 10 years later, and farming is changing. So this is, of course, not a monoculture design. So what I brainstormed with them for 2 days. They booked me in for 2 straight VIP days. And we run all kinds of numbers. So what I did for them is just telling them which varieties of apple trees, pears, peaches, plums, cherries, what else? Berries, blackberries, any type of shrub or tree. I just named it to them. Like, this is the variety that you need. This is what it's called. This is how much yield that product will give you. Nuts are also in their design. Anything. I said you cannot just keep it at only apples. You need 5 varieties of apples. You need 5 varieties of pears. And I just named everything to them, which can be used in the Netherlands, because we are still part of the Northern Hemisphere. So that means not everything can grow here, but a lot of things. We do pretty well in growing. And this school, the first one, will be in the middle of the country, middle of the Netherlands, around Utrecht. And I just told him, this is the variety, this is the name. These are true and tested varieties for me for over the last 10 years within my own business. So I always recommend like a couple of varieties. There's always kind of similar, but not really, because it really depends on the design. And on 1 acre, I can go nuts on these kind of designs, because there's more space, but it's also more challenging than doing a backyard. So residential or urban designs are super different. Like there's so much that's different. I also told them which annuals they should buy seeds for the first year. And then the first day was already so far from their world. They constantly said to me, the abundance is insane. How can that be so much yield? And why don't farmers adopt these kind of principles that you're explaining to us? And I said, it's more complicated than that. It's not that farmers don't want to. It is so complex. So, for example, you have peer pressure amongst farmers. You have generational pressure. Like, hey, my dad had this farm and he doesn't want to transition in these kind of designs because it's so out there and it's so experimental. And so it's more complex. So what else? They said, how can this be so abundant? How can this be so profitable? So I run the variety to them, variety of trees. I also said the yield per tree, per variety. I told them how much profit, because that's very important. This is a not-for-profit institute, but still they need to fund themselves, basically. And they are building a model, which I find fantastic, that eventually, if this is profitable, this model, they can let their kids go to school for free, which means that they transition from a private institute to a public institute with free schooling and lunches and all these kind of things. So I told them how much profit, how much I save them. I think it's not exaggerated that I saved them at least $500,000 in cost of goods, which is really good. So more or less $500,000. I don't want to run the exact numbers to you. This is fine, but this is more, I don't want to run the exact numbers, but I saved them $500,000, more or less, on smart design, um, shopping for the best variety, looking for growers that I personally really love. It's very, very important to me that the grower that will be onboarded in my projects this year, because other projects fell silent last year. If I onboard a grower or more growers, they have to be in 100% alignment with me, and they have to be able to consult me on the designs as well, which I find really important, that we are together, we are a strong team. So just talking around, I saved them so much money on plantation costs, but this is also the really cool thing. So this is what I did for 2 days: variety, yield, how much profit, how much I saved them in the project already. That means that working with me for 1 hectare and up, it is a return on investment. Like, if you can find a return on investment somewhere other than the work that I do, that's very impressive. These numbers are very impressive. I'm even shocked. I was like, how much did you estimate it? I probably saved you this much money, which is really cool. And what else? So the first day, because I made a couple of designs for them, and explain them how these systems, because in permaculture we call it systems, how these systems basically work. So they are designed in a way that the yield is maximum. These are basically all kinds of, we call them guilds in permaculture, which might be an interesting term for you, a guild. And the woman of the school, she named it a cell, which I really liked. I found that word better. But I explained them how these mini ecosystems on and on itself, how they function within a whole. And it is so important. Like, you just cannot, it is not a random display of trees. It is very, very organized. The design is mapped out in a way, which I sketched for them on Blackboard, of course. It is designed in a way that it's mapped out on the north and on the south and on the west and on the east, so that all varieties blossom like 100%. And the cool thing of regenerative agriculture and also agroforestry is that you get peak years. So year 5 and year 7 basically are peak years within your design if you do it correct, if you do it well, if you monitor the whole process. So I don't know if you watched Biggest Little Farm. This might be an idea of what I started working on. Biggest Little Farm is an example. It's not the same design. I just want to point that out because that wouldn't work here, because there needs to be a school. Little Farm. So I'm basically that dude that, if you've seen the movie, the documentary, I am that dude for this project. So I come in and talk about geese and snails and all these kind of things, but I also make them the design. And I made one model for them, one design model that we basically can stick within the outline of the full hectare. We can stick it, we place it, we have a certain type of placement, but that one little model comes back everywhere in the design. And that is so, do you understand how cool that is? It's just one little drawing that I made. But of course, it is within a full functioning ecosystem. Otherwise, it cannot work. So I also need to make sure that all the elements of that ecosystem are in place. That is my job. I have to make sure that everything else functions. Otherwise, this one little model won't work. I'm not going to show you the design as of yet. because we're still working on it, and it's a long project. I think especially the first year, I want to see how this builds out for them, but I want to be on this project, or at least keeping tabs on it for the next 3 years or so. Because the first 3 years, especially if they use regenerative agriculture principles, the first 3 years are key. Like there can happen so much if you transition from, so the landscapes that they're looking at probably are agriculture fields. So they need to transition from traditional agriculture to regenerative agriculture. That's the first kind of step within this case study. And that on itself, the first 3 years are critical for this. It just takes a little bit of time, but it also takes a whole lot of monitoring, testing, planning, testing different kind of crops. So yeah, it's a super cool project. And we first did, like, we worked on the budgeting part first, and also the yield and the possibilities. And these clients said to me that without me being their advisor, their consultant for this project, they would have estimated so wrong, and they would have had no idea how to design for maximum yield. They had no idea, and that's okay. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a bit of time. I'm now ticking on 10 years, which is really cool. And there's so much variety possible that it can get really overwhelming. And on the second day, we worked on annuals. And the person who was making, like, running all the numbers and making a beautiful sheet, Excel sheet, and made the budget, he said, I thought it was complex on day 1 using perennials, but now day 2, wow, this shit is so complex. They both are so smart. They're like one of the smartest people I've ever met. And they said, this is just so complex. I just don't understand. I just don't understand how this is possible. So I told them all the more traditional yield numbers from orchards, which in and on itself is impressive. Orchard can have much yield. But these are traditional numbers because this is a monoculture. And a monoculture doesn't function that well as a polyculture or a full ecosystem. So that is totally different. So, but still, we run the numbers very traditional, very safe. We didn't want to overestimate all these yields. We wanted to be on the safe side, and still, because we have so much diversity in this project and the design, it's a whole lot. The first year they can feed 400 people from 1 acre, but that's only the first year, because these numbers will double until they have a tipping point at year 7. Year 5 and year 7 are the tipping points with permaculture. These are the abundant years, and then it just stagnates a little bit. But I made the design in a way that it can renew itself constantly, which is, when I say this, it's just so sexy to me that a design can renew itself, and it can. So normally within an orchard, you have to replace your trees every 20 years or so, more or less, within monoculture. But I made sure that with the plants that we're doing is that they are able to renew their own designs constantly. And this is the difference that I want to talk about. So they onboarded me as a permaculture consultant. That's what I do. It's the most easiest to understand, I think. Yeah, that's what they onboarded me for. But I said to them, these thought processes won't get you to your goals of feeding 4,000 million mouths in 2040. You won't get to 10 million hectares in this way in thinking only of permaculture. Not that permaculture is limited, far from it, but they needed a different design. So we looked at regenerative agroforestry as their base design. It is different. It is not a food forest. It is not permaculture. It is not only regenerative agriculture, but it's a combination of agroforestry and regenerative agriculture. And I said, this is the way to go. If you really want to do this in a profitable way, with easy access and high yields and a stable regenerative system, we need to adopt different kind of principles. And luckily in their presentation decks, they already changed to regenerative, which is really cool, because there's a big difference between sustainability and regenerative. It is a world of difference. Regenerative. It is so big that when I learned this, I was like, my whole world just flipped upside down. And this is always what happens with my clients. I call this, thanks to another client, Sophie, if you're watching this or watching this back, that's thanks to you. I call this the wormhole principle. Start at one end, and then you come out all the way to the other end, and you think, shit, I thought I knew something about life, but then you explained me all these things, and now everything looks so different. It's true. Your whole world shifts, and that's what happens constantly for my clients, but also for myself. So in short, sustainability means let's just sustain what we already have. Let's just keep pacing. Let's just make sure that we won't use up more than we need, which is beautiful. It's brilliant. But then we are also sustaining something that we don't want to sustain. We want a system that is regenerative, or it can renew itself and become like a cornucopia of surplus. Let's see. Cornucopia. That's what we want. Because when we talk about sustainability, maybe think about organic farming. So organic farming is amazing. Like all the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, all the biocides go off the fields. That's amazing. But then you still sustain a way of working, which is tillage, of course, that is so destructive for soil. And that soil doesn't have the ability to build itself up again, to renew itself. And that's what I want for all my clients. I want systems that can renew itself constantly, which then allows for way more yields, a healthier ecosystem. But it just takes some time. We really have to learn that it takes, you start to see changes within a half year. But then after 3 years, your system is stable. And that's why for projects like these, I want to monitor, not me personally, but someone in my field. Well, me personally in this case, but like everybody that does this work is brilliant at it. But we want to monitor the project for at least 3 years. Gabe Brown, sorry, I thought about Bill Mollison, but I was reading the book by Gabe Brown, From Dirt to Soil, and he speaks about the first 3 years. The first 3 years of transitioning are so hard. They are so hard if you do this alone. And project like this, so they're looking, for this case study, they're looking at 3 acres or so to begin with. You cannot DIY that shit. It's just, please don't DIY this. It is very, very, very complex. when they ended the 2 VIP days with me, they were so, like, their whole world is suddenly different. They think about crops different and fruit trees and the differences between perennial and annuals they already understood, and the diversification of small like 100 square meters or so. They thought of everything is different for them, even the integration of animals. I got them to see that that's needed, but it's all needed in phases. And as a beginner with permaculture, especially permaculture, agroforestry, or regenerative agriculture, if you are a beginner with gardening, even, it is very hard to think of this as a project and to think of it as phases that you have to implement and when to implement and how much will it cost you, what will be the benefit of it. It's almost impossible to do. You have to please always onboard a project manager to do these kind of projects, because it's impossible to think about these things if you have never done it before. And like I said, I'm doing consultancy for over the last 10 years already. So I've seen so many different landscapes and so many different clients, and every landscape is different. Like it really doesn't matter if you have a balcony, or if you have a big field, or if you have 1 acre and up. Everything is different, and every person is different. So for one, the pacing is too slow. For the other, the pacing is perfect. For another one, they want way slower pacing. That's all good, but you have to keep in mind that these are projects that you cannot DIY. Please just don't, because the stakes are very high in projects like this. They want to feed 400 people in the first year of opening their school. So it is school lunches, and the parents can also harvest from this project. That's a lot. Like, the stakes are high. You want to be able to feed 400 people. Your plan needs to be watertight. Watertight, and you really need to know what you're doing. So that's why I want to monitor this project for over the next 3 years or so. It would be ideal to have those 5 years together with me, because then I can really help you tweak your way to that first 5-year tipping point, where the surplus is so much that from your original design you just have no idea what's happening. Like, it's insane when you designed it right, and that's what makes it so interesting. What else did I want to tell you on this case study? So how do I continue with these clients? So we had 2 VIP days, and now I always ask of my clients, so how can I support you best? I have an idea how that looks like. For these particular clients, it would be amazing if I would be just available to them. Whatever they need, I will be available. That is the best outcome for their money. This is not a project that I come in one day and everything is like all said and done. No, that's not how it works. They need me maybe monthly checkups, monthly VIP days, to really work out the complete scope of this design, and draw out the 3 acreages, and then also make sure that it is scalable. So it can be, this design that we're making will be used for more schools. So they want to build a whole lot of schools. I forgot how many. I think they're on 50 schools or something worldwide in 2040. But we have to make sure that that design constantly transfers seamlessly into the next school. And within the design, we want to make sure that the plantation for the next school will be all done on site. It's pretty genius. So that nature will take care of all of these schools and all of these kids. Super exciting to me. So I will just let them be for now. And I will book up a follow-up with them to see how they're doing. And it will be best if I can just have tabs on the project for the next 3 years or so. I have an idea how that should go, but I want to make sure that I listen in for what these clients need of me. It will be amazing to just clean my calendar a little bit for this project so that I can build it up until forever. And they asked me, like, how much work do you want? I said, well, it's fine. Like, I can work on this project and 3 other projects, and then my work is done. So to come in conclusion of this particular case study, what I did for my clients is show them how much yield can be done with regenerative agroforestry. We have to be very specific in terminology. How much yield they can produce in the first year, but also over the course of 19 years. Yes, 19 years. We mapped out a design for feeding 4,000 million people. That's pretty impressive. I also showed them how much profit they will make. It is important for them to have profit because that will mean that eventually all these kids can go to school for free worldwide on these particular schools. That's why we want to focus on profit, because we want to make sure that all these kids can go to school. Then I showed them how much I saved them by the return on investment on working with a consultant like me. Return on investment is already $500,000, but I want to make sure to see how much. So this is for one school, $500,000, more or less. Like, it would be more, it would be less, doesn't really matter to me. But per school, that means so much money. Like, that means so much money. And I also told them which varieties they need so that they're not overwhelmed with planting lists, and it's so complex. People, please, perennial planting is quite easy, but then annual planting, so we made a perennial plan, but we also made an annual plan for them. Super complex, because you need to make sure, like I said, that in the first year you can feed 400 people. That is not a DIY project. And then to conclude, I stressed them to choose for this system, a regenerative agroforestry system, and I told them why. So this is it. This is my case study on a school project that I started working on. I want to tell you, if you're interested, if you are listening to this, and there's something that sparks your interest, maybe it's the part of, wow, this person knows how to make a simple design work for me from generation to generation. Because it's not only the first year, but it's at least until 2040 that this design works. Maybe somewhere in the back of your mind, you feel fear, the way the world is being run by now, the way we are depleting our resources. Maybe you feel so afraid of your community and thinking, shit, I need a design to feed my full community. I have it for you. I have all the tools and ingredients for you to make designs that work for you and your community, or for you and your household, or for you and your farm. But all these design elements are different. But I want to make sure that if I make a design for you, you can transfer it from place to place. I find that super important. So I make one design, I budget it together with you, and then you're good to go for the rest of your career or your community or for your big gardens. I want to say that if something strikes with you, you've listened to this case study, please reach out to me. Reach out. You can book a free consultation call with me. We look at your project, and I tell you what I think is possible for your projects. And it is probably so much more than it's already in the back of your mind. I am very used to thinking long term, big scale, high yields. That's how I think. That's how my brain is wired. And then I also make sure that as your project manager, everything just gets done for you. I think it's so important that you focus on community building, and I, with my team, focus on, okay, how do we make sure that we feed all these people correctly? I have put together last year a stellar team for this. I super enjoy working with these people, and I want to make sure that wherever I show you these kind of things, the team is also local, so that I source that locally for you. The only thing that I want to put out there, and this is what might scare you a little bit because it scares me, is that I only have 4 spots left this year to work in this way. So these are projects that are an acre and up, only an acre and up. I only have 4 spots left. I don't have any VIP days left anymore. I'm fully booked, but I have place spots for 4 projects like this. If you feel that the time is now, and I just want to tell you, you cannot wait another year because this is so important. Someone said to me once, you are the key to save humanity. This is how we do this. This is how we do this with really smart design and me having tabs on your projects for over the next 3 years to 5 years. If you feel that I'm your person, you need to send me a DM. And you need to do it now before these 4 projects are up. Because it's only March and I'm already quite booked for spring season. Send me a DM, book a call with me, say, hey, I need you as a project manager on my project. I need your second opinion. I need your full eyes on my project. Only 1 acre and up. Please, everything else is fully booked. Contact me, book a call, and you have a free consultation call with me, and I see what's possible for you. Okay, bye-bye.